Hey folks, I'm the Mysterious JG. Just got done recording a video and decided I needed to put a real quick announcement up front. The video you are about to watch, assuming you plan to watch it, is a video in which I, Mysterious JG, a Let's Player, explain how you can submit a character to be involved in my Let's Play that's coming up of Nobunaga's Ambition, Sphere of Influence. It's a long video because, in my own sort of rambling at times style, I slowly go through the entire process of creating a character and explain everything you would need to provide me in the comment section below if you want to have a character in my upcoming LP of this strategy game. It's going to be a long LP too. Nobunaga's Ambition games are long games. If you're not interested in having a character in the LP, then there's no point in watching the video. I'm just throwing it out there because in the past I've done these long intro videos explaining the process, and there are people who are upset that I didn't get to gameplay. There's no gameplay in this video. Tune in to the future video, which will be clearly labeled before I actually play the game. But the video that's coming up is all about the character creation process, so that people who are interested can submit a character for the game. Thanks, and if you are going to be watching the rest of this video, enjoy. Turning it over now to Past JG. Hey there folks, I'm the Mysterious JG, and I want to welcome you to a new Let's Play adventure. So let's go ahead and start up Nobunaga's Ambition, Sphere of Influence. We'll watch the intro, and then I'll start yammering at you again. Oh, but first I gotta close Wolfenstein: The Old Blood, which I had opened exclusively so that I would be able to actually see the intro for Nobunaga, and never mind. Nobunaga's Ambition, Sphere of Influence, PS4 version, coming at you in just a moment. Just a moment. Anytime. Here we go. And there you go, that's the introduction to Nobunaga's Ambition, Sphere of Influence. And, you know, Nobunaga's Ambition, Romance of Three Kingdoms, I tend to think of them kind of in the same breadth. They're clearly, you know, they're from the same company and are part of the same historical simulation series. And one thing you gotta say, man, all of the games, from the best in the series to the worst, always have kick-ass intros. Even the early Nobunaga's Ambition games, when the graphics and sound capabilities were much less than they are now. You compare them to other games of the same era, they always try for this epic feel, and they generally succeed, and I thought that was pretty damn epic intro. Anyway, folks, as I mentioned earlier, I'm Mysterious JG, and I am going to be doing a playthrough of this game. I remember back in the day, I started a Let's Play of RTK 11 on the YouTubes, and I think I was the only one playing it at the time. And a couple more popped up since. But I've owned this game now. I got it, pre-ordered it through GameStop because I wanted like the free extra DLC or whatever. And so yeah, I basically had this thing from like, you know, in my mailbox on like day 2 that it was available in the United States. There's already about 4 LPs of this thing going, so I can't pretend that I'm the only game in town. But I am going to do something here in this video, which I hope will draw the interest of my subscribers and any wandering LP viewer Ronin out there who have not yet pledged their loyalty to the JG brand. And that's what I always do is, in these RTK games when possible, is I do a call for heroes. I ask that viewers submit created officer names and stats, and I will do some kind of lottery, because I generally, and I've done this in the past on RTK 11 and RTK 10. I also tried on RTK 12 playing an imported Japanese copy with an English patch, but for reasons I explained in that LP, I couldn't do created officers in that one. But in the other games I've done of the historical simulation series, I've let people join in the fun with created officers. I'm going to do that again here. Didn't really organize my thoughts here. That might have been a good idea, JG. But usually in the past, I've gotten more submissions than I really wanted to create for the game. I don't know how many created officers you are allowed to use in this game, but I would imagine it's a pretty high number. Yeah, you can have up to 1,015. And although maybe that 315 active is the limit on how many who can be active, there were, in fact, I've created one officer. There are 14, quote, created officers that are already in game. Which I think is just their way of saying, I don't know the deal with these guys, but maybe, yeah. I don't even know how to look at their details here, but they're generally, like, I know, for example, Gomo Nishikawa is he's a character from like Japanese folklore. He's probably based loosely on a real person or 1 or 2 real people, but he's sort of like a Robin Hood. There's some historical basis, but really he's a dramatic, romanticized, fictionalized character. So they made a version of him that you can put in the game, but they didn't include him by default because this game is, you know, much more focused on being realistic historically than you know, some of the other Koei games are. And no, we're gonna go ahead and end out of this now. But yeah, so I'm gonna go in this video. I'm gonna go through the process of creating a character so you guys can see how that works, and I'm gonna ask people through the comments in this video to, you know, following the rules that I dictate as I go along, submit a created officer. And what I'm gonna do is compile all the information. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to give it a week or 2 weeks for people to submit. It'll depend, I think, on how many I get. If, like, within a week I've already got a ton of submissions, I'll probably just, in a week's time, post a video where I announce who got in and run with it. The selection process is essentially the same. For anyone who knows my channel of old, there are a handful of people. I won't name the names because I haven't actually quite got a concrete list that's written down anywhere. But, you know, Bobo the Vulture submits a character, he's getting in. Zerfall submits a character, he's getting in. Grimmeth submits a character, he's getting in. You know, those are some gimmies. These are people that I've done LPs with in the past. They range in closeness with me from internet acquaintance to blood brother, but they're all people that I've actually, you know, collaborated with in the past. So those guys submit characters they're getting in. I have certain longtime fans of my channel who are regularly commenting on my videos, and even if I don't do LPs with them, I don't want to name the names because I'll forget somebody, but yeah, if I recognize your name of old and I'm like, oh yeah, he's been a faithful viewer for a long time, there's a pretty good chance that you'll get in too. But for the vast majority of the submissions are probably either going to be people that I'm like, yeah, I've seen you around before, and I'm rooting for you, but you're going into the lethal lottery with everyone else. and a total stranger I've never seen your name before coming up my comments, you're going to delete the lottery. And I'm going to compile all the information, then I'm going to do some kind of random number generator. And having assigned numbers to people, I'll go through and pick. And everybody will get an equal chance to be selected, except for, like I said, a handful of people who are pretty much automatically in, just because I already know them. And I haven't really decided how many I feel like doing. I know that in past games I said, well, I'll do like 20 created officers based on random, and I've got like a list of like 4 or 5 people who I'm going to throw in there, that I know I'm going to throw in there. And I didn't want to do more than like 25 or 30 officers because I didn't want to unbalance the game. The created officers that you make tend to be exceptionally gifted officers. They tend to have certainly well above average stats. And just having like 30 supermen roaming around the country is going to make kind of unbalance things a bit. On the other hand, in this game, there are almost 2,000 officers. Not all of those officers will appear in every scenario. But, yeah, I'd have to create a lot of created officers before I'd unbalance things. So, what I'm saying is, once I've received submissions, I'll probably figure out how many created officers I feel like doing. The limiting factor may be that it actually takes time to create the created officers. So if I have, like, you know, if I really get a bigger response than I was expecting, and like 100 people submit characters, I'm not going to create 100 officers, even though I could. So, I guess what I'm saying is, I'm inviting you to submit an officer, and you will have a random chance, as good as anyone else, of getting into the LP, and you're not guaranteed. And I hope that if you submit an officer and you don't get in, that you'll still join me. Actually, let's go back into this menu for a second. Samurai Cat's faces and Sahai no Yukui faces, I don't know what either of these mean, and I'm not messing with them yet. In fact, since the game just came out a few days ago, I'm telling you right now, I don't have an expert knowledge of this game. I played for a couple of hours on the default difficulty setting, which as it happens is easy, and didn't encounter huge amounts of difficulty, so I got some real basics of how to do, you know, domestic and running of a town down, but that's about it. There is a tutorial scenario, which I actually went through, and I'll be recording a video of me playing through that again, just because it's a fairly easy way to allow you, the viewer, to pick up on how the game's played. But after that, my plan is to do the Birth of Nobunaga scenario, playing as the Oda. There is a 30 Ambitions scenario. It is a fictional scenario in which all of the major forces from the Sengoku era are simultaneously on the map. So Nobunaga Oda is the leader of a force at the same time that Mitsuhide Akechi is the leader of a force. That couldn't have happened historically, of course, because Mitsuhide became his own lord when he betrayed and killed Nobunaga. So that doesn't make sense, but we're going to have that here anyway. You're going to have, in this scenario, like, Hideyoshi Toyotomi has his own force, even though he was a retainer under Nobunaga, so he wouldn't have had a force while Nobunaga was around. And he'll have a force while at the same time Kenshin Uesugi and, I'm blanking on his name, Tiger Akai dude. Yeah, you know, there's going to be guys who shouldn't exist simultaneously in history, but it's a traditional Kawaii historical thing where they have a fantasy scenario where all the great powers are on the map at the same time and get to slug it out. I'm not going to do that one. That's a popular choice for LPing purposes, but I'm going to go with one of the historical scenarios. Like I said, I'm going to do Birth of Nobunaga. And we'll get into this more as we play the game proper, but, yeah, sorry, blanked out there for a second. As we play the game proper, we'll be explaining it more, but the way this game works from what I've seen so far, it kind of gives you the option of following history and makes it much clearer than previous RTK and Nobunaga's Ambition games have made it, how to trigger historical events. So if you want to trigger a lot of historical events, and follow that path, you can. And if you just want to go into business for yourself and, you know, play as the Oda and ignore Dosan Saito and start conquering other neighbors instead of going to war with them early, and, you know, recruit him and blah blah blah. Like, you can go on your own path and do things your own way if you want to, or you can follow the historical path. And my plan is to basically kind of play this thing through as a narrative. And the way these scenarios are structured, I don't know this, but I have a feeling if you start at Birth of Nobunaga, you play straight through. Because up until the point where Nobunaga dies, all of these are written from the perspective of Nobunaga, which makes sense. He's the guy that the game is named after. Obviously, after Nobunaga dies, you get the option, you get like different things, and generally the way the narrative is written and the default force that you get to play as, if you don't go pick some other force manually, is going to be the force that actually is making progress towards unifying Japan. So immediately after the Nobunaga scenarios, you get the option of playing as the Toyotomi, and after that you segue into getting to play as the Tokugawa. But my plan is to play as Nobunaga and go through, like, I'm just starting this thing. This is semi-blind. I'm going to just start playing this game. I'm hoping you guys will enjoy coming along for the ride. But we're going to hit a point where the question mark is going to be, well, how far can we continue to play the historical scenario? Because I don't want Nobunaga to die. Eventually I'll pull away and actually try to conquer Japan through Oda. But yeah, I don't know 100% what's going to happen. So I hope that will in some way make it interesting for you. By the way, one thing I forgot to mention up front, there is not going to be any gameplay in this video. I'm going to show you how a historical officer is created by creating an in-game avatar for myself, and invite you guys to submit your own avatars and collect those up, and then my next video will be me playing the tutorial scenario. In the past, I've had lengthy first videos of an RTK Let's Play where somebody will show up and be like, "Why don't you shut the fuck up and play the game?" I'm telling you right now, I'm not playing the game in this video. If you're not interested in submitting a character, tune in a couple of videos' time, or go watch one of the other LPs that's going out of this game. I don't mind. Free to do whatever makes you happy, folks. So, I thought I had made a character and saved it. Although, honestly, I started making a character and then switched out, and maybe I didn't properly save. That's possible. So what we're going to do, since I don't actually see Mysterious JG here, is I will make him from scratch, and you guys can watch. And I'll explain as we go the rules that I'm following for my character, and that's how you guys are going to have to make your own character. So the first thing that you need to do when you're creating a character is select a face. This is the default face. And the face, basically, they mean portrait. There is a miniature version of the portrait, which you see here, that'll pop up on some screens. In other screens, you'll get the full-fledged portrait. So here's how it works. There are in-game portraits that you can use. These are off limits. You guys don't get to use these. They already belong to historical officers. I'm not going to bother to show them. There is a set of male portraits, a set of female portraits, and a set called EX1. I don't really get that, and I'm not sure that more portraits won't become available as the game's been out as free DLC or pay DLC. But since I want to get this thing rolling now, you're going to have to choose between the portraits that are available now. This is what we call a row. This is what we call a column. Here's another column. And as far as I'm concerned, this is one page. This is another page, etc. So what I'm going to do is just go through and show each portrait. This might get kind of dry. But if you remember, like, this is row 1, column, page 1, row 1, column 1. Here's page 1, row 1, column 2. Babyface guy. I'm going to go through them this way. And you are going to write down, I'm going to go with, pick 3 faces. List them in order of preference. Because if somebody gets picked before you, and they want to be your little babyface guy with the top knot, And you also want to be babyface guy with a top knot. They already got babyface guy with a top knot. You're not going to get him. It's another reason I can't do like 100 created characters. I want everyone to have a unique face. Okay? So we've already seen column 1. Here's column 2. Here's row 1, column 3. Okay? No, stop. I keep hitting confirm, which takes me out of factoring. Here's row 1, column 4. Here's row 1, column 5. Row 1, column 6. Row 1, column 7. We go to row 2. All these faces to choose from, folks. Pretty exciting, huh? Here's this Jackie Chan looking dude right here. That is shave the top of the head, or I guess it's just if you go bald on top, it's not so shameful. But the top knot that's formed with like the huge baldness on top. This guy's got it too. That was a look at the time. I don't know. I don't get it. Then again, I'm an American living in the 21st century, so it wasn't about what I thought was stylish. These guys couldn't possibly have cared. Keep on scrolling through here. Keep on keeping on. If you see a face that just jumps out and grabs you, go for it. By the way, you are going to need to specify male, female, EX1. Just to refresh your memories, this would be page 2, row 2, column 2. Because every 3 rows I'm thinking of as a page. If you give me row 9, I guess I'll figure out what you mean. But the way my nomenclature is working, that row 9 would actually be page 3, row 3. Here's a pretty thoughtful looking fellow. Guy looking pretty sneaky. Here's a Bishonen, if ever I've seen one. Guy's enjoying the play that he's attending. Smug looking son of a bitch there. Here we have the only Westerner I've noticed. I guess clowns wearing fedoras were a big thing. Yeah. But yeah, if you want to be a white dude, this is the only white dude I've noticed. Which is odd, because there's, you know, I suppose they wouldn't have been samurai serving a lord in that fashion. This is the single goofiest face I've seen. If the guy who created Mr. Serious in my previous LPs jumps in on board, this looks like the Mr. Serious face. But here's a guy wearing a theater mask. I never really quite got that either. I am not an expert on Japanese culture, in case you hadn't figured that out. Some fairly handsome young Japanese gentlemen. Keep on keeping on here. Most of these faces are fairly nondescript, believable Japanese people. Here's a... If I was going to play as a warrior type, I wouldn't mind looking like that guy or this guy. Kind of the unkempt. Guy's got like a scar. He looks like he's a pretty rough customer. Got a couple of ninjas to choose from. The Ninja Empire is supreme. Well, I can't... Dang, I got the quote all wrong. Here's a Zhao Buckethead. If he's going to join us, this would be the guy he'd want to be. The Ninja Empire is supreme, and you have betrayed it. Why did you do that? He would be Cao Nin, the little baby. Somewhere along the way... Oh, man, I might have to go with that character for myself. But I was planning on being a civil officer. He looks like a warrior type to me. A handsome gentleman. There is a stage actor of some kind. At some point I will come across the... I'd already picked a face for myself. At some point I'm sure we'll find it. That could be a female portrait almost. Very lovely young gentleman. Wouldn't mind being that guy. See, I have to remember too that there are civil officers who had some draping of military attire as part of like their, you know, the tradition of their clan is military. So even if they were a civil officer, they might have some ceremonial military garb that they would be part of their costume. But I believe most of these guys are meant to be dressed for combat. Because even the combat officers who were like serious about the military and not just for show, they had very ceremonial outfits back at that time. It's part of the tradition, of course. Just keep on keeping on here. This will probably not be the most interesting part of this video, I'm sure. Keep wondering, I had a specific person. Yeah, and actually used this portrait during the tutorial, as you'll see in a later video. I would encourage you to just, you know, take a break and kick back and concentrate on something else while I do this. But the whole point of why I'm doing this is so you can actually see the faces and let one grab your attention. None of these guys particularly look like me in real life because I'm Caucasian. And apologies right now to Bobo, Grimmeth, and various other handsomely bearded gentlemen, but since this game is set in Japan and the Japanese are known traditionally as a ethnic group not to be big beard growers, I mean they are capable of growing beards, some of them are not. But yeah, it is not a big part of the traditional culture. Like Chinese dudes, ancient Chinese warriors, big beards. Ancient Japanese warriors, not so much. It's not a bad looking dude. He's got kind of the Sakon Shima outfit from Samurai Warriors. Oh wow, he looks like some. There's a specific person I'm thinking of that he looks like, and I can't quite. He's got a cookie on his head. It's kind of neat. Cookie helmet. C is for cookie. That's good enough. Okay. Keep on keeping on. I don't think there is going to be as many female portraits to choose from. Might be wrong. And the EX1, there's really not that many there. So. We're closer to being done than you might think. Another handsome young fellow. I'm just keeping my eyes peeled. I don't know what you call the headgear that these guys wear. There's a few guys like this in the game. I keep wanting to come up with nicknames for them and potentially be offensive. I don't want to be offensive, that's the thing. I want to come up with goofy nicknames. I don't want to be offensive. The two things are not all necessarily going to be able to come together. Oh, you know what? I think it was an EX portrait that I had picked that I liked for myself. The EX portraits are a little bit more, I guess a little less realistic. These are all like, you know, plausible Japanese dudes of the era drawn in the art style of the rest of the game. The EX portraits, there's a couple that are coming from other Koei games and a couple, actually they probably all come from other Koei games, but there's some that I don't recognize the source. So I'm much more inclined. Now this, I don't know what's going on with this person, but there they are. We got our female portraits. Actually, it looks like there are quite a few of these to choose from. If you feel like giving yourself, so this would be female, page 1, row 1, column 1. If you feel like playing as a male character, giving yourself a female portrait, I don't care. You can do that if you want to. You can be a transgendered character. I don't discriminate. I would ask you to actually state your character's gender, and if you don't pick one and you pick a face that belongs to one gender or the other, I'm just going to assume. If you look like this, I'm going to assume you meant to pick girl and just forgot to say so. Female, I should say, not girl. And I like the fact, this being a Nobunaga's Ambition game rather than a Samurai Warriors game, the girls are, you know, they're drawing these, you know, fairly attractive but believable young women as opposed to, you know, every girl is wearing like freaking Ginchio in Warriors of Orochi 3 with the freaking boob armor. If you've seen the character, you know what I'm talking about. Actually, if you've ever seen a fantasy novel cover illustration, you probably know what I mean when I say boob armor. See, this one I like in particular. She looks other than, like, she's got the traditional crazy hat whose name I don't know, but she looks like a real woman as opposed to like a fictional beauty queen. If I recall correctly, there was only one non-Japanese looking male portrait. I don't think there's any non-Japanese looking female portraits, so bear in mind, folks, this is supposed to be set in Japan. If you want to throw your avatar in there, you're going to have to accept the fact that your avatar is supposed to be Japanese. I suppose you may see a face amongst these portraits that looks less Japanese and more Chinese or Korean, and jump all over that if you feel like role-playing in your own mind that you are a Korean living in Japan, and, you know, whatever you want to do. It's all up to you, folks. Yeah, so there's quite a few female portraits, especially compared to some of the previous games in these series, but, you know, fewer than there are male portraits for obvious reasons. The game is pretty much about warlords. So here we get to the EX portraits. I'm pretty sure that most of these, if not all of these, are references to previous Koei games. So, yeah. Like, that is in my... That's gotta be Hideyoshi in some other Koei game. That looks like Mitsuhide in some other Koei game. So I guess my rule here is that any portrait here that doesn't already have a name on it, you can use, because the portraits that already have names on them are actually created characters that they give you by default, and I think I'll throw all those into the game. So this is clearly Nobunaga, but if you want to look like that, then you can. Don't call yourself Nobunaga Oda, though, because that'll just confuse the crap out of me and piss me off. Not sure who that's meant to be. Not sure who that's meant to be. I think some of these are from previous Nobunaga's Ambition games, and some of them from like Samurai Warriors or whatever. Here's another version of Nobunaga. Here's another version of Nobunaga. Here's another version of Nobunaga. I recognize that from one of the previous games. It's probably Tadakatsu. That would be Masamune. But yeah, these ones that I'm actually showing because they don't have names under them, they're up for grabs. Shingen Takada. I was trying to remember his name earlier and couldn't. Here's Kenshin Uesugi. If you want to look like alternate version of Kenshin, go right ahead. Some other guys. I'm not going to... Here's another version of Hideyoshi, looks like. I'm not going to pretend to know who all these guys are. That's probably a different portrait of Tadakatsu. And sometimes I'm only guessing based on the headgear that Koei has given people in previous games. That guy looks vaguely like She-Grimith did in a previous LP I did. Actually, there was two portraits that jumped out to me as being She-Grimith-esque. I think it's just because he's got a red headband, that's all. Sadly, for Bobo, if you're watching, I think the crazy bearded warrior guy portrait that you like in the Dynasty Warriors games is not available on this one. I'm bearded warrior man. Yeah. You can probably find a bearded warrior man, but it's gonna have to be one of the other bearded warrior men. So, still choogling along. I've lost track of which row this is, but this would be EX1, page whatever it is. Row 3, column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you are, see? Just giving you little reminders of how this works. That was the portrait that I used, so I'm going to go ahead and confirm. And then go back in and continue to showcase these portraits. So whatever page I was on, I think I was in the middle there. That was the other one that kind of reminded me of old She-Grimith, and I guess it was RTK 10 where I had a She-Grimith. I think I had one in 11 too, but he wasn't as major part of the way the LP unfolded. JG Mystery as an in-game avatar has a... Wow. I'm not sure who that is. That's either the Shogun or that might be Yoshimoto, I think his name was. There's a Nobunaga. Yeah, JG Mystery as an in-game avatar has quite a history in these games too. He was he did some seditious poetry in the well, I'll name drop him again. Grimith did Let's Plays. Oh, there, yeah. Here we're into the Samurai Warriors 4 portraits because they made Nobunaga even creepier in that game. But yeah, Grimmett did LPs of RTK. I think it was 4 and 6, and in 6, JG Mystery, my in-game avatar, got to write some seditious poetry. But he acquitted himself a bit better in my LPs, where he was, you know, a reasonably competent officer, political officer in 10, but in 11 he defeated Zhang Liao in a duel, which says more about how silly and weird the dueling system in 11 can be than anything else. Where if you stick with the same, so we'll be skipping these guys because they are already assigned to characters. But if you stick with the same stance from the beginning of the duel to the end in 11, you get some bonuses, which would allow, say, a mediocre war political officer to beat Zhang Liao in the duel. Zhang Liao. Almost done. Actually, we are done. So there you go. Those are the faces you have to choose from, and I have chosen a face for my in-game avatar. And the next thing you do is a name. In this game, your last name comes before your first name because it's Japan. Japanese. The first name is spoken first, and the family name is written first. So, boy, those crazy Japanese, they sure do things different from Americans. So, just to get it to display the way I want it to, I'm going to go with JG as the last name. That will make it display first. For the first name, well, on the internet, I go by Mysterious JG. But in the past, I've had an in-game avatar called JG Mystery, which is kind of why I just defaulted to putting JG first. So, in honor of the fact that previous games didn't give you the ability to do exactly what you wanted to do, and they were already suggesting Mysterious, but not Mystery. I'm going to call myself JG Mystery, just to honor in-game avatars past, although in fact I could call myself Mysterious JG, because they have improved your ability to name your character whatever you wanted. And of course, in really old games, you only have like 6 characters to go with. I've been Mist JG. And then in the wonderful world of 100 World Story, Mr. JG. But I'm going to be JG Mystery. They came up with Mystery JG. I thought I'd figured that out. I thought last name... Okay. So I'm Mystery JG? You know what? Fuck it. I'll just actually be Mysterious JG. How's that? Yeah, there you go. I was going to be JG Mystery, and I screwed it up. But let that be a lesson to you, folks. What you give me is your last name, and then your first name. It will actually be written out, first name, then last name. So they'll be writing it out in the Western style, even though... yeah, see, I was trying to, like, jump on what I knew about Japanese... No, it's actually Western style. So if you want your character to be known as, say, Screaming Doom, tell me first name Screaming, last name Doom. In previous games, we had a character called Doom Screamy because there wasn't enough room for the word Screaming, and they gave me first name Screaming, last name Doom. It came out Doom Screamy. If you want to be known as Doom Screamy, then you better tell me first name Doom, last name Screamy. I'm throwing that out there. I don't know if the person who gave me that character is still around. Just throwing that out there. Birth. You gotta pick a gender. And as I told you, if you want to be a male with a female face or vice versa, I don't care. But I don't have transgender as a choice, so don't jump on me for that. Voice. Pick a voice. There's a couple different voices. I guess we'll quick listen to each one. There's not that many. So we'll start out with Youth Pure.
Please leave it to me. Please leave it to me. Please leave it to me.
No matter how many times I hit the button, you get the same phrase, so I'll just hit it once from now on. Youth Earnest.
Leave it to me.
Youth Bold.
Leave it to me.
That would sound like Liu Bei from Dynasty Warriors 6 onward. If you feel like figuring out which previous Koei characters were voiced this way, have fun. Here's Youth Planner.
Leave it to me.
Sounds a little lights out, but here's Youth Patient.
Leave it to me.
Youth Friendly.
Leave it to me.
Youth Brave.
Leave it to me.
Middle-aged Earnest.
Leave it to me.
Middle-aged earnest goes to camp. Here's middle-aged bold.
Leave it to me.
Middle-aged zealous.
Leave it to me.
Middle-aged friendly.
Just leave it to me.
You can tell he's friendly because he adds the word just. Here's middle-aged fierce.
Leave it to me.
That is Ji Hao Dun if I've ever heard Ji Hao Dun. And I've heard Ji Hao Dun. Here's middle-aged patient.
Leave it to me.
Middle-aged planner.
Leave it to me.
Middle-aged stern.
Leave it to me.
Another Ji Hao Dun, but he's just a little angrier. Middle-aged clever.
Leave it to me.
Middle-aged official.
Leave it to me.
Old veteran.
Just leave it to me.
It's a little shades of Huang Zhang there, the Dream Master. Here's female brave.
Leave it to me.
Female wise.
Leave it to me.
Female cheerful.
Please leave it to me.
Female tender.
Please, leave it to me.
And there you go. Don't spend a ton of time agonizing over these choices, because I don't think we'll be hearing the character voices frequently. Unless you end up being like the... If your character becomes part of my force, and that's not automatic, then if you're a very high political rank, you might be the person who runs the monthly meetings, in which case we'll be hearing your voice actor pretty frequently. But,
leave it to me.
Just leave it to me.
Leave it to me. Leave it to me. Leave it to me. Leave it to me.
I like that one. Father and relative. I am, I don't think I'm gonna play with that. I think all of our created officers are gonna be, living in a void. If Bobo, pretty sure Bobo will probably give me a created character. If he does, I'm going to make Bobo's created character my brother, and vice versa, because of reasons that people familiar with us will already know. But otherwise, yeah, I don't think I'm going to do a bunch of that. If, like, if Zerfall convinces Jaxors to make a character, or asks that Jaxors be a character, I think I got to make you relatives. I don't think I can make you guys married. You know, that kind of thing. Moving right along. Same would go for if Bean wants to be related to Bobo. They could probably do that if she wants a character, you know. Otherwise, yeah. And there's no Oath Brothers in this game, as far as I know, which is odd, because they used to do that in Japan, too. It wasn't exclusively a Chinese thing. And Koei's usually pretty big on the Oath Brothers. Personality. Tennant. David Tennant. Good doctor, not as good as Tom Baker, just my opinion. Patrick Troughton trumps them both. But Tennant, in this game, there's 3. And it's really tough for me to quite grasp what they're going for with using the word Tennant. But considering that the 3 choices are, Prugs, neutral, and conserv. Basically, your personality can be conservative, progressive, or neutral. From what I've seen of the game so far, conservative tends to mean traditional Japanese value. There are certain structures that are associated with the Buddhist faith that you can build if you're conservative, but are not going to be available if you're progressive. I think. That is not something I'm 100% sure on. Wouldn't wager my life on it. But that's kind of roughly how it goes. There's some Buddhist stuff you can't do if you're conservative. Please don't start some big debate in the comments about this, but in this game, progressive means Christian and pro-technology from outside Japan. I don't care if you think that Christian faith is progressive or not, but in the context of this game, Christianity represented outside ideas and Buddhism represented traditional ideas for the Japanese. The Christian missionaries and traders who happen to be Christians brought like rifle technology. That's what the game is getting at. The progressive ones are the ones that are open, are the clans that are open to outside ideas. The conservatives are the ones who would try to prevent outside ideas from spreading in Japan, and neutral's neutral. So pick one of those. The biggest impact it has in the game, if you are not the ruler of a clan, and none of you guys are going to be the ruler of a clan, at least not unless something strange happens over the course of the game. The biggest thing this affects is how well you will get along with your clan leader, because your clan leader will also have one of these. So So like Nobunaga Oda is, I believe, progressive. Nobunaga's father was neutral. Shingen Takeda and Kenshin Uesugi are both conservative. So depending on where your created officer lands on the map, they might join a force where they get along very well with the leadership, or they might join a force where they don't get on that well with the leadership, and there's a higher chance that they'll eventually leave that force and go elsewhere. I'm going to be playing as the Oda, so in the long term, if you really want your character to be part of my force, which would probably land you on screen more often, you might want to pick progressive for that reason, but it's probably not going to make a huge difference. Ideals. This is, well, there's a similar system in some of the RTK games. I think RTK 6 had Dreams, which is where that whole thing with Huang Zhong, the Dream Master, altering people's dreams came from. But in this game, ideals essentially work like dreams. They don't do anything in-game. An officer who likes fame doesn't have stats that are higher in this area and lower in this area. It only affects how well you get on with other officers. If they have the same dream as you or ideal as you, you will get along with them well. There is probably some thing in-game where some ideals are more closely aligned than others, and others are diametrically opposed. I haven't seen a fact that lays it out. There's nothing in the game documentation that explains it that I've seen. So basically, I'm going to read through the ideals and just pick one that you think fits your character. And if it turns out that you pick fame, and the ruler that you went with, his ideal is clan, and those are diametrically opposed, well, oh well. And just what each of these really mean isn't that clear either. So you can go with fame. I guess that means that your officer's ideal pursuit is to become well known. You can go with clan, which I assume means that your ideal is to do the best for the force you belong to. Be a team player, putting the group above yourself. You can go with talent, where you like to see talent rise to the top, I guess. Or you just want to enhance your own talents. You can go with profit. That one's pretty obvious. You want to get rich. You can go with justice. You're Ma Chao in Dynasty Warriors 5, spinning a spear around and screaming about justice all the time, like an idiot. It sounds like I'm anti-justice. That is not actually true. Ambition, that's probably what Nobunaga has, considering the name of the game, but that would be that you want to, well, I don't know, the difference between this and fame, I guess, is that you want to be powerful as opposed to famous. Mastery, couldn't tell you what the difference is between this and talent, but basically I think your idea, maybe they mean you want to be the master of the land, maybe they mean you want to hone your own skills and have mastery over skill. I don't know what it means. But again, and spirit, no idea what that means. So there they are. Pick one. Don't worry about it too much. Required loyalty. This is an interesting one. In RTK games I'm used to, loyalty goes on a range from like 1 to 100. And honestly, once it starts dipping below like 80, like 90 or 85, it becomes possible for characters to defect from a force. And so that's kind of strange. You have this sliding scale from like 0. Obviously at 0 the person's long out the door, but a sliding scale from like 1 or 0 to 100, and you've only got to get down to like 85 before people are likely to start defecting. Seems a bit odd. This game, it only goes from 1 to 15. Required loyalty. This is basically the lowest loyalty score your created character can have before they will defect from a force. So again, it goes from 1 to 15. And you know what? I tell a lie. Loyalty doesn't range from 1 to 15 in this game. It ranges from 1 to 20. So if a ruler is taking good enough care of you to keep your loyalty at 20, a character won't defect even if their loyalty range, their required loyalty, is at 15. I don't know if I made this clear. If a loyalty goes from 1 to 20, and your required loyalty is 15, then you will stay loyal. But if it dips down to 15 or lower, there's a chance that you will defect. It's not a 100% chance, not automatic, but it becomes a possibility once you go below 15. So basically, the higher your required loyalty, the less intrinsically loyal your character is. And in this game, it's kind of simplifying things compared to previous RTK and Nobunaga's game. I'm not crazy about it. It's not as dumbed down as things got in RTK 12, but it's still. If a Ronin comes into a territory, they can automatically be hired. And the game narrative explanation that I saw was they travel to territories where they wish to work. I guess that makes sense. So if you're a Ronin character who's seeking employment, you're going to go to the place where you want to work, and you're going to accept employment if it's offered. But you might leave if you don't feel like you're being treated well. So for me, for example, I envision my in-game avatar, which is kind of a, slightly skewed version of myself, as not being quick to join a side, but once they join a side, they would have to be pretty unhappy before they would turn on them. So to me, I would say if it goes from 1 to 15, I would definitely be less than half of that. And I'd say about 5. Because if your required loyalty is like 1 or 2, it means your ruler can treat you like shit and you're still going to stick with them. So there are a few characters who have loyalty that is set at like 2 in-game. But these are characters who were lifelong loyal to one force. And the game starts them out as a part of that force and sets their required loyalty very low to make it practically impossible that through the course of normal gameplay they would ever be led away from that force. It's like in RTK world, what would it take to get Jihao Dun to defect against Cao Cao? Cao Cao is still alive. It would take a lot. So he would have a required loyalty score that's extremely low. Even though he would probably be well rewarded anyway, but it is what it is. In this game, I'll tell you from playing it a little bit, it's not as easy to keep loyalty high as it is in some other games, because you can't just throw gold at officers. You have to either give them treasures, and there's a limit on how much you can do with that, or you have to have the same dream, you have to put them in positions of honor and responsibility. You can't just pay them more to get them loyal. So that is what it is, basically. So I'm going to set my required loyalty at 5, which means that you'd have to be within the acceptable range of the game. You'd have to be treating me pretty bad before I leave, but you don't literally have to be shitting on my head before I'm going to ditch. And then there's tier. I don't know what this means. I'm throwing it out there. I don't know what this means. If I figure out what this means before this video goes out, I will put something in the description. I'm going to be tier S, because from the way they go C, B, A, S, I'm assuming S is the best, but since I don't know enough about it to know it's not like game breaking to be an S, so I'm just going to let it go with S. Okay? Now, we're going to go to tactic. Everybody gets to pick one tactic, because that's how the game works. Can't give you the option of picking more than one tactic. I can't. Not up to me. So these are the tactics. Swift, which raises speed. Concentrate, slightly raises attack, defend, and speed. War Cry, slightly raises attack. Inspire, raises defense. Rapid Assault, raises melee attack. Staggered Firing, raises ranged attack. Sharpshoot, raises ranged attack and weakens attacking enemies. I'm reading these out loud in case anybody... I tend to read things out loud. In case anybody's listening to this while they do something else. Caution, lower speed, raises defense. Roar, sometimes confuses enemy in melee. Pierce, briefly and significantly increases melee. Encourage, raises attack of allies in front. These are all combat skills, as you may have noticed. Cheer, raises defense of allies in front. Pursuit, raises melee attack, limits enemies' movement. Snipe, momentarily greatly raised ranged attack. Heavy Crush, nullifies obstructions, greatly raises melee attack. You know what, I can't keep reading these. There's too many of them. The voice is going to go on me. So I'll just give you a chance to read each one. Banabo, King Spear Arts, Instant Power, Western, interesting. You guys should be reading these because some of them are kind of fun. Overbearing Power, Demon Kojima. That's what Konami thinks of that former employee of theirs, Opposing Guardian. Technician, you can be a great technical wrestler. Crimson Spear, Ambush, Brandish, Great Blade, Blade Catcher. Ghost coins, that sounds interesting. The 7 elites. Vanguard. Winter die. Crescent moon is a better version of winter die. Actually, I don't know, it looks exactly the same. I'm going to be going with Dandy Assault, because chance to confuse enemy when attacking isn't bad, and more importantly, I don't think I'm ever going to be in combat because I'm going to spec my in-game avatar as a political officer. Most of you will probably go with warrior. I totally get why. It's much more exciting, but I'm going to go with political. And therefore, my basic tactic here doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go with Dandy Assault because it's a fucking awesome name. But I'll keep going here. Bear of Heizen maybe. Decapitator, the 3 arrows, Kuroda Warriors, Rampage. Learning tactic against all odds. Fire, crack troops. Perturb does not mean what it has meant in some previous games, so be advised. Provoke, incite. Some of these mean exactly what they sound like they mean, others really don't. That was a meaningful statement, huh? Trickmaster, which is probably what I would have gone with if I didn't go with Dandy Attack. Dandy Assault. Even better than Dandy Attack. Now, lifespan. You set your birth year, you set your lifespan. You can live anywhere from 16 years to 110. Personally, I'm not setting any special rules on this. I don't see why you wouldn't go for the full lifespan. I think you can still be captured and executed. This just means your character won't... And there may be a random factor here, too. If you pick 110, you might die in 105 years. You might die in 115. That sounds a bit nuts. Actually, yeah, that's crazy. Maybe I'll go with, like, 80 and see what that does. If I go with 80, I can't live to see the Battle of Sekigahara. If I start with the default birth year, which I think I'm actually going to do. 90 means that I'll still be kicking at that point. Yeah, fuck it, I'll be 110. It's ridiculous, but it's what I'm going to do. And then your birth year. Changing this around changes what age you are in different scenarios. I think you need to be 20 to become an officer. I'm not positive. But I'm going to start with the Birth of Nobunaga campaign and play from there, so you guys can do the math. If you really want to be like, I want to be in my prime of life during actually, because you got to remember, Nobunaga was a fairly, he was an aged gentleman by the time. He was not, despite the way it's portrayed in the various games. It's not like he was assassinated when he was 23. He was older. So the entire storyline of these Kessen and Samurai Warriors games actually took place over multiple lifespans for most people. Like, there was nobody who was hanging around. Well, I shouldn't say that, because you can be 82 at Sekigahara and still be alive, but you're probably not out on a horseback leading an army. I'm going to stick with this. If I change it off screen, it's not a huge deal. I'm just showing you how this all works. And condition. This is the last thing we have to do, but it is going to take the longest. It's not going to take that long. We're almost there, folks. So location. Location, location, location. This actually is going to take a minute. I forgot about this. I'm going to select Set All, because you can set yourself to start at different locations in different scenarios. I'm just going to ask you guys to pick one location that you want to be born at. Or not born at, but you want to start the game at this location. Which means that it's likely that you will join the force that is at this location. And that being said, I don't really want people spending a ton of time working this out, trying to get on a specific force. I'd rather you just either pick a name or say, put me wherever. If you say put me wherever, I'm just going to pick something at random. But if you want to pick a specific location, I'm going to scroll through them. But again, even though I'm playing as the Oda, I would prefer that like everybody doesn't pick the starting base of the Oda, because I'll have so many Ronin running around at the beginning of the game, it'll just break the game. So let's not all be at that location, okay? Anyway, I do not speak Japanese. I can guess the pronunciation of some Japanese words well, but that is going to be an issue for some folks during the LP, I'm sure, me even butchering the names, so I'm not going to try to read all these names. But as I scroll through, grab a name. And that is where your character will be located at the beginning of the scenario. And bear in mind that your character, I'm going to set them as Ronin unless you specifically say you don't want that, which means that your character might be roaming around a bit before they settle down and choose a force. But because of the way hiring works in this game, there's a good chance that if you pick a city that you'll end up aligned with the clan that's there. Which means, and I apologize for this in advance, but it's always possible that your character will join a force, that force will be defeated by one of its enemies before I ever start encountering them, and that therefore your character might never appear in the LP. It's like if they get captured and executed when they're fighting one AI force fighting another AI force, it's possible that you won't show up. Not that likely, but I'm just saying it could happen. So there you go. That's all of the cities that you could, the bases rather, that you could start out at. If you don't feel like picking a base, and I can't say I'd blame you, you can either tell me you want to be on, I can never remember what this island is called, but you can tell me I want to be on Kyushu. I can't remember the name of this island. I apologize to the people who live on that island. It's the smallest, but not the least populated of Japan's 4 islands, if I recall correctly. Honshu's the main island, so you can tell me I want to be on Kyushu, I want to be on, what is it, like Sudoku, whatever this island's called. It's not Sudoku. You could say I want to be in, like, Western Honshu. You can say, because even though this map is, like, kind of rotated, I'm thinking of this as Western Honshu, this is like Central Honshu. You can say Northeast Honshu, Southeast Honshu, Central Honshu, Western Honshu, and I'll just throw you down in a spot someplace. Or you could say, don't say Hokkaido. If you say Northeast Honshu, then this spot in Hokkaido might be where you end up. Oh, that's right, I have to actually pick a location for my dude. So JG Mystery, am gonna... Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by the toe. Tiger of Kai, possibly. It be others, let me go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I am gonna be in Harasa, which is... where is that? I'm just curious. I'm not gonna change it. Oh, damn it! I wanted to actually find Harasa. Now they're gonna make me find it again on the damn list. Oh, man. They're not even listed alphabetically. I mean, I can list them that way, but... It's, Satsuma. Station. I'm going to be a Ronin, which means that Mysterious JG Mystery, I'll probably end up calling him JG Mystery throughout. He is going to be apt to wander the land, but he will start at Harasa, wherever that is, and we may never see him in the LP itself. So that is most of what we need, but in fact there's still abilities to be sorted out too. So for the abilities, and I know this has been a long video, folks, but we're almost done. And this is just the process to go to if you want to make a character. In previous LPs, like in RTK 11, there actually was an ability to do a random roll of the dice. And if I recall correctly, what I did is I said everyone gets a random dice roll, and because I don't want anyone to have a crappy character, and everyone wants to have above average, So I think I was like, whatever you roll, I'll give you 20 more points on top of what you roll, because it lets you roll and then adjust. So I think I said, yeah, tell me the stats you want to put points into, and I'll put them on top of whatever you get on the random roll. And so like Mr. Serious, for example, got a wretched random roll. Most people got fairly good random rolls. And then in RTK 10, I didn't have that option, so I actually got the average total score of all the characters in RTK 11, and figured it out that way. And the average score rounded off was 400 points to split between 5 attributes. And everybody was pretty above average. Like that came up with some really above average characters. And if you wanted to, you could pretty easily really hit like leadership and war hard and be a very good combat officer and have crappy domestic skills or whatever. So in this LP, there's only 4 skills to choose between, to put points into. So 400 times 4 divided by 5, since we only have 4/5 the places to spend points. 4/5 of 400 is 320. So you have 320 points to distribute. A couple of things to bear in mind when you are telling me how you want your points distributed. You're going to give me 4 scores, 1 for leadership, 1 for valor, 1 for intelligence, and 1 for political. Your points need to add up to 320. If your points don't add up to 320, I'm assuming I'm going to get more people wanting to be in this than I'm going to have room for. So that's a good way to get yourself disqualified, is if your points don't add up right. Leadership, and it's actually a bit simpler than it has been in previous games. Charisma, of course, is gone. Leadership means, and the only thing it means per the manual, how much damage your troops inflict in combat. That's all it means. It doesn't have multiple effects anymore. It just means that. If it has multiple effects and hidden effects, then the manual did not explain them, and maybe we'll come across them as we play. Valor simply means damage that your unit takes. So the higher your valor, the less damage you tend to take. Higher your leadership, the more damage you tend to inflict. So these are basically your combat skills right here. Intelligence comes into combat too, because I think it affects... you know what? I don't even know this for sure. I would think intelligence affects whether commands that confuse your unit will work on you, like tactical tricks and stuff. But it might not. It definitely affects things like subterfuge. You can conspire to decrease the loyalty of officers. That's a standby of many RTK and Nobunaga's games past. That's in there. Intelligence affects your ability to scout enemy bases, and it may affect combat too. And then political is how quickly your character can, like, you know, build facilities. There's not a lot of... There's some building of permanent facilities in this game, but mostly you're just actually overseeing projects. So if a district is farming in 1 month, then an officer who oversees it, the higher their political score, the more crops will be produced by the farming activity. If you're doing drafting, they will get more troops by drafting. In some previous games, charisma would affect draft, I think, because you know you have the ability to really like excite people to join the military. So your charisma score affects how well you can draft. Doesn't in this game. That's gone. Poll means anything that you do that's domestic, raising troops, raising gold, raising food, all driven by the poll score. Another thing that this game does that's different from some of the RTK games I've played on my channel before, you can actually increase these attributes. I mean, 10 had a way to do it, but it was pretty involved. And of course, that was a game where you played as one character instead of as a force. In this game, you're playing as a force. But as you engage in activities, you will gain experience in those activities, all of your officers, and they will gradually level up. For that reason, I'm just throwing it out there, consider not maxing anything, because you will lose the capacity to get any better. For example, I have 320 points to spend, and I intend for JG Mystery here, or Mysterious JG as he's actually going to be called in the game, to be a domestic officer. I'm sure that plenty of you guys are going to give me dashing, exciting, heroic characters, and that's cool. But JG Mystery is going to be a mild-mannered, but I think ultimately very useful to whatever force gets him, political officer. He can help, you know, help run the home front, help keep the economy ticking. So I would give him 95 pull and 95 intelligence, because the political score and the intelligence score are going to gradually rise, and they'll hit 100 eventually. But in the meantime, I won't personally feel like I wasted it and had him be absolutely abysmal at combat in case that becomes a thing that needs to happen. And despite what I do for a living, I'm not that great at math in my head, so let me refresh my memory. I'd spec Mysterious JG, but I thought I'd saved him, and I apparently didn't, so I need to go do this again. So 320 minus 95 minus 95 gives me 130 to play with. I remember having 75, and that leaves me 55. Wait, really? I think I did that wrong. 320 minus 95 minus 95 is 130. Divide that by 2, and it's 65. Okay, so I don't think I did have 65. I think I actually had. I might have had 70 and 60. So 60 plus 70 plus 95 plus 95 is 320, and Bob's your uncle. So you're going to need to give me 4 ability scores that total up to 320, or I'm probably going to abandon your submission. Or try to figure, like, if I'm really feeling generous, I'll try to figure out what you meant, but probably not. You probably just disqualified yourself. You can't get 4 numbers that add up to 320. Growth type. This is actually kind of interesting. Because there is leveling up in this game, one of the reasons to level up is that your character gains new skills as you gain stats. So they give you different growth types. Basically, this means that it's just different ways your character can kind of progress. That's all there is to it. So there's moderate, which I would expect is probably fairly dull. I'm not going to show these in great detail because I really don't want anyone agonizing over a growth type decision and min-maxing their stats and figuring all this stuff out when it's not guaranteed you'll get in the LP at all. I would just kind of feel like a jerk if that happened. I'm going with Civil Officer because it's going to ultimately give me traits that will be useful to me. Agility, Schemer, Statesman, Minister, Charismatic. Statesman is something I would start with. Earthwork Expert, Flood Controller. Some of these I don't understand for sure. If you have to gain 16 pull and 16 intelligence to get the Charismatic trait. Does that mean by starting at 95 I've disqualified myself from ever getting it? I don't know. I really don't. But I'm going to go ahead and start at 95 anyway and just hope for the best. And if it turns out that I did not make the ideal character, then so be it. Maybe I made a pretty broken character. Broken in the bad way. So then, like for example, I would start out with Statesman. Occasionally labor needed for infrastructure tasks decreases. And I have the ability to eventually learn Agility, which affects unit speed. Schemer, time to change form down slightly. I don't know exactly what that means, to be quite frank, but it has to do with combat. I haven't seen where you get to select different formations, but maybe I just haven't gotten far enough in the game. Charismatic. When lowered, base's maximum popularity and popularity recovery increases. Because this game has a popularity score, which is similar to the way Order worked in some previous games. Diplomat. More trust gained from diplomacy. Golden Touch. Make more money. Flood control. There are floods, and actually no, flood controller. There are floods. That's nothing to do with it though. This means that you develop crops better. Earthwork. Fortifying road work. Posts and roads will improve. Essentially, most of these are going to be domestic things. So, just to read through them, the growth types are moderate, leadership, valor, intelligence, political. Versatile. Versatile with a leadership focus, versatile with a valor focus, versatile with an intelligence focus, versatile with political focus. Brave. Brave gunner. Brave spearman, brave horseman, fierce, fierce gunner, fierce spearman, fierce horseman. civil officer, diplomatic monk, minister, tactician, adjutant, regent. So adjutant, you're like in Star Craft and you've got wires coming out of your head. Regent, brutal. That's right, brutal. Naval master, fortifier, master fortifier, expert fortifier. And I'm just telling you straight up, I don't know the difference in which one's better. Woman, so you can level up like a woman. And I'm hoping at least one guy out there, or girl, submits a male character and gives them the woman growth type, because I'm just curious what that will do. You can be a maiden warrior, the maiden form warrior. You never know when she'll spring up. The tragic beauty, the homemaker, female daimyo, kunoichi, night demon, ogre, tiger, luring, faith, cannon, iron ships, novice ninja, ninja, elite ninja. Why would you choose novice ninja over elite ninja? One, if you choose it, and explain why. Go for it. Be a blade master. You can be unlucky. You can be lucky. And then you get into specific characters. Mitsuhide, Neomasa, Mitsunari. These characters, and I won't bother to read them all, apparently have like pre-programmed growth types. They have skills that were set up specifically so that they will learn certain skills. And if for some reason you really want to be, I want to be like Yukimura, you can. I could have sworn I saw the same guy more than once over all that. I'm probably wrong. So I'm just going through these so you can see them. I think we even have a couple of the females here at the bottom somewhere. Yeah, Gracia, Kicho. Kicho, by the way, is Lady No, for those of you who are Samurai Warriors fans. Although she was Kicho in Kessen 3, and her portrayal in this game is closer to Kessen 3 Kicho than Lady No. This game is way too historically accurate to throw in a character like Lady No. And Ginchio. But again, although I think I already chose it, so I probably don't need to reselect, but just to be safe, I'm going with Civil Officer. And then traits settings. What I'm going to do is, well, those traits below are what came out of my growth type. And when I looked at the Rise of Heroes or 30 Ambitions or whatever it's called scenario, a couple of characters, like 4 characters had 4 skills, 4 characters had 3 skills, maybe 24 characters had 2 skills, about 100 characters had 1 skill, and then several hundred characters started with 0 skills. So I think what's fair, since your growth type is going to give you 1 starting skill, and it's going to give you a bunch of skills you get to grow into, everybody gets to pick 1 trait, which is separate to get. Theoretically, as you can see, there's room for more traits than that. I'm giving you 1 trait that is not part of your growth type tree. And since I didn't show you all the growth type trees, it's possible that you're going to screw yourself here and pick one that you already would have gotten. But, you know, this video has to end eventually, so I didn't want to show every growth tree in detail. So your traits, agility, blitz, swift, you can read them. I won't show them all. Most of them are combat oriented. So I would suggest, depending on just how much you care, you carefully read all of them, or the first time I show you a growth name that sounds good, you just grab it. I'm actually going to go with talented, because that's a good one, I think, overall. Gain experience for other abilities, too. I believe what that means is that when you do farming and you gain political skill, that there is a chance, not guaranteed, that you will also get political experience. Like getting 100 experience improves your political score by 1 point. I think that means that as you do certain tasks, you have a chance of gaining other types of experience as well. I went with Feng Shui expert in my previous playthrough, and it was actually a terrible skill. So I'm trying to go through these slow enough that you can pause and read if a trait name grabs your attention. I'm sure there are some traits that are much stronger than others. there are probably traits that are like the specific trait. The only in-game character who gets this is like, you know, Tiger might be the, that might be, I keep wanting to say Kenshin. The Tiger of Kai, Shingen. That might be Shingen's trait. I don't know. But Shingen, like, whatever trait Shingen has is probably pretty freaking powerful. Whatever trait Kenshin Uesugi, the God of War, has, probably pretty freaking powerful for combat. I long for combat. Combat eyes are watching you. They see your every combat. Shut out. That's an interesting name. Master. Master! And of course the master trait abilities slightly up. I'm the master of war. I'm slightly better at war than you are. Retreat tactics. Probably not a bad trait for certain officers to have, but boy, it doesn't really make you come across as a badass. I'm an expert at retreat. Be a true warrior of the Three Kingdoms there. Be the one-eyed dragon. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that that has something to do with Masamune Date, the Western Titan. God of War. That is probably Kenshin's. Attack power up, increased damage to enemy. That is probably Kenshin's, and it's probably freaking awesome. And then Nobunaga's ambition. I don't want to tell you how to spec your characters, and I've complained in the past about everybody having 100 in war and leadership, so that I have like 30 created officers running around who are all godly. But if you want to be a combat dude, I don't even know if that's a combat skill or a political skill, because it just doesn't tell you. But I'm thinking the Nobunaga's ambition skill, probably a pretty fucking good skill. It's the name of the game. But I'm going to go with, I think it was called Talented. The one that gives you different experience. Basically, it means that even though my character is already going to be really, really good at his main functions, I believe the way this works, he will get better overall, faster than most characters. So when we confirm, and now what are we left with? We've got Mysterious JG, a male with a middle-aged, earnest voice. He comes from nowhere. He has no relations until Bobo creates a character. He's progressive. His ideal is to support his clan. You need to get his loyalty before 5 before he's gonna ditch ya. He's got a really long lifespan. He's born in the default year. His favorite tactic is the dandy assault. He's got really good political intelligence. He's got above average leadership and above average valor. He's a civil officer. And that's what I need from you guys. I need you guys to spell out all the inputs that I went through to get this character. And if you can do that for me and give it to me in a comment on this video, then you will go into the lottery to become a character. It is not set in stone. I'm not making any promises, but depending on how quickly I start getting submissions, it'll either be like next week, probably on Friday evening, that I will record the video where I make the characters, or it might be on, it might be 2 weeks from now. I might not get to it Friday. I might have to do it later in the weekend. But yeah, that's the plan. It's about approximately a week from the date that this video goes public. I'm planning to close entry so that I'll just grab what I've got at that point and keep going. In the past, people have continued to submit characters after I was done. I don't like to disable comments in case people want to just make general comments, but I will update the video description to say, you know, event closed, congrats to those who made it, whatever. Next video is going to be, I'm thinking, my next video will probably be me playing through the tutorials and showing those off. And then after that, at some point, I will do a video where I run down the people who made it. I will create the characters off screen, because I know that was a very long process. But I wanted to show it to you once, so you know how to create a character. Well, there you go, folks. That probably wasn't the most exciting video in the history of my channel or LPing in general. but I think I've given you the information you needed to have to submit your created officer and have an opportunity to be involved in my forthcoming Nobunaga's Ambition LP. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope that a decent chunk of you will make the effort to create a character and get involved. To everybody who submits a character, I wish you luck in being selected. To everybody who comments on this video, why are you still talking? When are you going to get to the game? Shut the fuck up. I explained what this is about. Anyway, there you go, folks. Thanks for watching. And please tune in, even if you don't feel like submitting a character. At which point, I don't know why you're still watching this video. I hope you'll drop by and watch the adventure as you and I together, gentle viewer, try to unify Japan. I'm Mysterious JG, and I'll be seeing you guys around. Sayonara.